Guys, it's Giltspire here, and welcome back to Champions of the Fog. I am joined once again by TravistyOnDemand. How you doing, Travesty?
I'm doing very well. How are you doing, Gail?
Pretty good, pretty good. I'll be honest, a little bit exhausted after, this many commentating sessions back to back to back. But had some really good time with Direwolf in our last match, so excited to be back again with Cookies versus Prestige here with round number 4.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go back and check the VOD because I'm really curious as to how that went.
Yeah, it was actually a fantastic time. We talked about a lot of things from comp play, and one of the nice things, a lot of my co-hosts obviously have been comp players in some capacity, whether that be you, whether that be Gannicus, whether that be Sergeant Fidget, so on and so forth. The difference between Direwolf, though, is the fact that they were they're a commissioner and a host for another league entirely. So it does put a completely different perspective on the type of conversations, which was really nice and kind of interesting to hear from a different, perspective in that moment. So I definitely recommend, if you haven't already, definitely watch that VOD if you were not able to make it live. And cool thing is, we'll definitely be seeing Direwolf back again in the future. Over here on COTF, and potentially, after some talks, you might also see me over on DBE co-hosting, so could be an exciting venture, to say the least.
Ooh, that's exciting. We love that.
So, overall, really great stuff, but we do have everyone in lobby now. We will get confirmation from Giraffe momentarily once builds are confirmed. Obviously, we are back on Azerov's resting place, followed by Blood Lodge. Prestige will be killing first with Dazzy, aka Bloody Blade, currently killing. If you were in the shoes of Prestige, obviously we always keep on saying that the first game really sets the tone for the rest of the match. What would you be bringing to the table here?
So if you view Cookies as a threat, you want to set the pace strong, and you want to bring out your good tier, your S or A tier killers. You should not underestimate Cookies at all. They're a fantastic team. So I would bring in an S or an A tier. I would bring one of those two.
Yeah, no, that would make sense. That would make sense to me. But with that being said, S or A tier, it's so hard. At the same time, I definitely agree with you. S or A tier is definitely the way to go. I think you could get away with like a Bubba on this map, especially if you're able to get a really good 3-gen going, because that would allow you to potentially just threaten that insta-down on the unhook. You hook into your 3-gen, you camp the 3-gen with that hook inside. Bubba's just hard killer to try and get around in those moments, so I think that would be a potential option here.
Yeah, I agree. Bubba would be very difficult, especially since we're seeing a lot of people who are trying to hide during corrupt intervention. If we saw that coming and Bubba happened to bring on Lethal Pursuer, immediate pressure from the get-go, really setting the pace would be very strong.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I remember when I was practicing, or rather scrimming UA on this map in anticipation for this weekend, I actually played Bubba, and that exact same thing happened. Is just camp out the hook and go, all right, what you gonna do now? You have to kind of make sense of that. Same thing though, I also practiced some Blight on this map, and I love Blight on this map, but I will say the geometry of some of the walls are a little bit finicky, where you can't slide down them as much in comparison to, the flat LT walls or the flat tiles. And it's something unique, I want to say, with like Azerov's resting place and other Autohaven record maps.
I actually never knew about that. Do you still think that Blight would be a decent choice on this map, even with some of those sliding issues?
I definitely would say it would be a good option, just for the sheer fact that you're able to get that mobility, and so you are able to patrol your 3-gen that much faster, and even extend that 3-gen out to middle. As long as you're consistent in your hits, then that's really what's going to matter in the long run, and make sure that you're not using the power in those tight loops where survivors are able to maneuver about. With that being said, there's a lot of good options for this map. I think that anyone that's able to really patrol that 3-gen and threaten survivors effectively is what you're going to want to see. As we saw earlier on with that Twins match at the very beginning of the day, the problem with killers like Twins is that you really need to follow up with that 1-2 punch, whereas with insta-down killers like Billy, like Bubba, or just a killer that's able to shorten those chases like Blight, I think that's where it's going to potentially be a better choice due to that fact.
No, I agree with all of that. I think if I was Prestige, I think a killer that I think could do very well would be Freddy.
Yeah, Freddy is nice in the sense that normally on this map you want to kind of lock down your 3-gen. With Freddy, due to his teleportability, you could theoretically extend yourself out a little bit further and allow yourself some more freedom to pressure gens throughout the game. So it's definitely an outside the realm possibility.
There's just a lot that they can do, but let's just go ahead and see what happens.
Yeah, that being said, we are loading into game number 1 of Prestige versus Cookies. As a reminder, Prestige is killing first, and we do have Dazi as the killer. So we'll have to wait and see what they bring. I know that they are very much known as a Blight main. So, as we were talking about, Blight would not be surprised to see it. At the same time, I know that they are able to play some other killers on top of which. So, anyone's guess, especially with Blight being a very good S-tier killer. You don't always want to come out with Blight if you don't have to, right?
Yeah, no, of course. Of course, you want to save him if need be, but I can see an instance where this is the time, and this is the time.
Exactly. With that being said, we are jumping right on in, and sure enough, it is a Blight.
You did not disappoint me with your guess. That is very nice, and we see him zooing over to the Corrupt Zone.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense in this instance, right? You want to get over here ASAP, take a look at what's going on, where the survivors are, especially as you do see a totem over on this side. You want to potentially protect that and ensure that the survivors are not able to cleanse that too early. But we see Blight now kind of disengaging, maybe not finding what they expected, but they do see scratch marks now over by that truck, and will be going for a rush on the survivor, but bouncing, or rather sliding off that bounce, and not able to get any momentum. To be fair, on this really tight loop, kind of hard to work with. Yeah, you do have that slide of the car, but it is just a really difficult place. But now caught on the open, but blinded by the firecracker.
Oh, that was such a good firecracker. That was so good.
Yeah, no, that's amazing play. I mean, that's a hard thing to accomplish too.
Yeah, and I think we saw a totem already get cleansed, so he's already out one of his perks this early in the game.
Yeah, so that's actually really huge for these survivors early on. Blight, especially if that was Ruin, is really going to want to make usage of that as much as possible. Where in this case, with potentially Ruin being gone completely, they're going to have to prioritize other gen aggression like Pop Goes the Weasel, which, though effective, is more reliant on your ability to down the survivor.
Yeah, of course. And then we do already have one generator that's completed on the non-corrupt side.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. I could have sworn that it had already been 2 minutes that Corrupt had already been up. It felt like it had. But sure enough, the game's still going and Corrupt just ends. So, still a decent spot for Dazzy here as the Blight. But I will say, knocking it down during these first 2 minutes, usually a bad spot for any killer to be in.
Yeah, definitely. Because definitely during the corrupted time, you have to get some pressure in, and unfortunately a little late on the draw as another generator gets completed before the first hook.
Yeah, so that'll be another down for Dazzy here, or rather a down for Dazzy. That's the first one this game, and we'll now be on the lookout to see how they play this 3-gen, right?
I'm very curious as to what they're going to do and how they're going to manage that 3-gen. They're already checking this middle one for progress, and with that, we already know that Pop has gone off.
Yeah, and so the question then remains, and we kind of see this middle areas start to get torn to shreds. We see a lot of those pallets, and, you know, though they're not able to get any more downs thus far, you know, getting those pallets out of the way for the late game could be pretty significant, as that will allow them to potentially, you know, chase out of the 3-gen and get a quick down.
Yeah, most definitely, I agree with that. It already pre-throwing the Shack Guy seed is. I'm trying to think. Did you want to throw the Shack pallet this early?
So, realistically speaking, a lot of people still have a lot of value on, you know, Shack pallet, and the biggest thing that I always mention is that if it saves you either a health state or a hook state, it doesn't matter what pallet it is, you want to throw it. So, you know, ideally the answer is no, but realistically speaking, if that's your best option, then yes. Especially when it comes to Blight, where, you know, he has a lot of chase pressure going for him. So, you know, dropping that and trying to gain some distance to the next tile is probably well worth it.
Yeah, and actually we're saying that throwing that Shack pallet early really did pay off, as another gen's been done, and they're just wasting so much of the Blight's time.
Yeah, really good usage of these tight tiles, using pallets effectively to generate distance. But now with this 3-gen here, the question then becomes whether or not they're going to be able to continue pressuring gens in this manner. And if the survivors are going to play it smart by, you know, taking a hit and then moving to the opposite side to heal. But Jane with a really good sprint burst.
Yeah, they were able to make the Blight whiff, but they just used their special and was able to rush it in and get the hit anyway.
Yeah, really good usage of the power there, being patient, not going for the swing on the drop down, you know, taking the time to bounce off another object first and then securing the hit that way. So, great usage of the power there, but Blight's still in a bit of a sticky predicament as we see 1-gen on that far side still not finished, and then the 3-gen over here, which these survivors are slowly but surely trying to break out.
Yeah, he desperately needed to pop that because there was another survivor that ran away, and being hooked on that hill, I think, is a really good spot for him.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be hard for the survivors to get up to that hook without the Blight seeing them. And of course, as soon as you get seen, that Blight's going to be on top of you. Though, potentially a Deliverance play, as we do see that broken stats effect, though also could be second wind if we see them get healed out of that broken stat.
Yeah, we'll be able to find out in about 15-20 seconds to see if it was second wind or not.
Exactly, but really, really interesting down there. We saw that dead hard from the Cheryl, but to no avail. We do hear another gen pop off, and that's the one in the distance, but that's not the one they needed, as the 3-gen has yet to be broken.
Yeah, it's going to be rather difficult, but I think that the survivors are all well coordinated, and most likely you're going to see all of these survivors, once they get hit, they're going to go to the other side of the map and reset and try again.
Yeah, but if the survivors keep on trading hooks like this, it's going to be a little bit difficult for them to do much. And as we mentioned earlier, with those middle area, you know, pallets being gone, the Blight just able to pursue them into this main area and potentially even go for the early kill or second hook on Cheryl here.
Yeah, they definitely need to get the kill right now, because having 4 survivors with 1 gen left, it becomes really difficult to control the match.
And 110% correct, and Blight desperately trying to get that read-down on Ace there, but to no avail. Instead, we'll chase out the Nancy. If we just look at the gens right now, though, they are aggressing pretty heavily, and, you know, it might be very difficult for these survivors to come back at this point and try and work through the 3-gen. Like I said with Blight, the nice thing about him is that you're able to patrol your 3-gen just so efficiently.
Yeah, they actually may be able to pull it off. I didn't think so with 4 survivors, but with hook after hook coming in, it seems that they have a legitimate shot of taking this game back with that 3-gen.
Definitely not outside the realm possibility, but it's going to come down to them playing it safe, right? If they do the opposite and they do not play this safe and are not able to make distance on the Blight consistently from vault to vault or pallet to pallet, I think that's what's going to give this Blight the game.
No, I absolutely agree with you. She faked the vault inside of the basement, which got him to swing, but it bought maybe, what, 10 seconds at most?
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the hard things about playing against Blight, right? Is that, that little distance might give you some time, but not all too much. And Blight didn't even, rush in that case. Blight just took his time, decided to go for the down, but is opting to slug here, maybe out of fear of a decisive strike, or just trying to slow down the game, potentially.
I imagine it would be something along the lines of slowing the game down. That's what I think. And ooh, that was a nice flick.
Yeah, really good stuff there. These flicks have definitely been on point, and that will be the second hook for Ace here. But Blight's gonna have to kind of look around and see what gens they want to regress at this point. Looks like it's probably gonna be the one up front here, which does still have a pallet. There are very few pallets left on the side of the map, but this one might prove very useful to these survivors. I say as it does get dropped and probably broken as well.
Oh, that was just comedic timing. So
just a little. Thinking, okay, well, that can be used in a chase. Maybe try and link it to a vault. I mean, they still have a pretty good vault here that they can utilize and try and link to middle. But with the lack of pallets, it really does limit their options.
Yeah, absolutely. And we did see Blight go a little bit away from the 3-gen, but not too far out to mid. And you just saw Nancy going up to the non-3-gen side of the map. And that's the first kill.
Yeah, now it's going to come down to continuing to pressure those gens and aggressive using pop, and as you kind of take your time and just slow down the game, Blight's going to be able to get more and more value, and I think, the best thing for Blight here, if they're looking to get this 4K, is to potentially try and find Ace, right? Ace is now in Deathhook where both Jane and Nancy are not, so committing to stages like the Jane and maybe going for too long might prove to be an issue.
Yeah, I think that could be an issue. You can definitely tell that she was trying to bait him to the other side of the map, and this guy was like, "No, we're not gonna go over there. We're gonna go back to the gym."
And that's a smart play, right? Just ensuring that you kind of, direct the killer's attention, because if you don't, then there's going to be going after, your weakest survivor, and by that, the one that's closest to death. Right now, either Nancy or Jane taking chase is going to be the best case scenario because they're not on Deathhook just yet. They're not going to be able to reduce resources.
No, yeah, absolutely. And right now, Nancy's trying to get out of the way so that hopefully someone can work on a gen. But we do see Ace coming in as well. I don't know if they're trying to body block or if they're trying to set up doing some heals on the other side of the map.
Yeah, it looks like probably as a body block into a heal, trying to make that work. I'm surprised that Ace of all people is the one who came in for that, given the fact that he is on Deathhook. That would have been an amazing opportunity for Dazi to ignore the body block, or rather, ignore the person being body blocked and go for the body blocker, Ace, and try and kill him off, but opted not to.
Yeah, I guess not. I guess they ended up going back to the gen anyway, probably thinking, well, if these two are trying to distract me, where's the third one? And going to check, and there Jane was.
And, I mean, there's still some decent progression on these gens, and like I've mentioned many times before, the regression that you get from kicking a gen is only 0.3% per second, so it takes upwards of 4 seconds to just get 1%. So dry kicking gens is just not where you want to be, and Jane, once again, taking aggro, bringing them to the other side of the map, yeah, the middle's a dead zone, so you're bound to take a hit. At the same time, the Blight, if overcommitting, will result in losing a gen.
Yeah, and then we see the Blight actually give up on chase with Jazzy to go after Ace.
Yeah, I think this is probably the best case scenario, right? You want to respect the fact that they're going to be on your gens, and as we see this last gen now with 4 sills currently active, I think if they just reset and don't allow the Blight to get a down for Pop Goes the Weasel, I think that's probably the best case scenario for them.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. I think that's what needs to happen, and it's so sad knowing that that's where the hash is.
Yeah, definitely good knowledge for the Blight, and unfortunate for survivors to have that information told to them, especially as the flash generators are going to be there at the end of the match. And once again, light disengagement. I think that maybe they need to commit a little bit more to these chases and get Pop Goes Weasel in hand, because chases are good and all, but unless you're able to regress that gen by any significant amount, they're going to get it.
Yeah, I think that's what we're seeing with the Jane. Committing to Jane? Nope, not even committing to Jane. Going all the way out here.
Yeah, it looks like they predicted when the survivors were healing, and rather than giving them that additional time to heal, decided to interrupt it. And it's definitely trying to get to the Nancy, but no dice, and just narrowly misses a grab from that ace. I was kind of concerned there for a second.
Yeah, I was concerned as well. I was like, Ace, get out of the way! Get out of there!
But Dazzy, once again, coming back to the gens, and though, yeah, that's a good move, the problem is that you just don't have really any form of regression to work with. So they need to commit to a chase here, get it down, get a pop in hand, because what you're doing now is just, it's very much a practice in futility more than anything.
What do you think if Nancy or if Jane, if they were healthy and they came over here, if White committed to one of those two, ideally, if you get a hook and maybe it may be a progression, they would be worth more points. Would you want to pursue them or get Ace out of the way?
I mean, realistically speaking, I'd say you still aim to get Ace out of the game here, because as you reduce those resources, it gives you the ability to focus in on other chases and even go for longer chases potentially. At the same time, if you have them in a position where they're so deep into your 3-gen, you know, go for the M1 hit, go for the immediate rush, get the down, get the hook, and pop that gen once it stops progressing. I think in this instance where you have 2 charges to charge back.
Oh, they finished it!
Yeah, like I said, they just never got any form of real regression on that generator, so at this point, you're probably wanting to go for Jane or Nancy to maximize your point value. If you just get the hook on Ace, you get an additional 4 points, whereas if you get a hook on Nancy or Jane and camp it out, then you're looking at additional 7 at the very least, not including any potential downs they might get in the meanwhile.
Yeah, no, I agree. At this point, you gotta salvage any points that you can.
Yeah, 100%. So we're looking, you know, looks like they are chasing out the Ace right now. They do find the Nancy, and it looked like Jane was on the execute. Dazzy needs to make a choice, and looks like it may have been too late, as Jane is already on her way out, and now needs to locate the Ace before too long. Otherwise, he will lose him as well.
Oh, this is going to be so tight. It's going to be so close to hopefully getting a 2K. So let's see if maybe he can either make some good predictions or have the survivors mess up in some way in order for them to get that final kill.
Yeah, the only way that's going to happen here is maybe if they try and, you know, get that one person out. But we see Jazzy already out. Looks like Thomas does go down. And so that'll be an additional 4 points and actually a loss of 12 for Cookies here. So, like, when we're looking at points and wanting to really kind of think about it, the fact of the matter is that losing 1 or 2 survivors is actually pretty significant. Yes, you only gave Blight 4 points, but in that same moment, you lose an additional 9 in that situation since they already had 1 survivor dead.
Yeah. And I wish there was some way that they could have been able to heal at the exit gate, but one of them had already left, making it really difficult to be able to get more than a 2 out.
Yeah, it's a difficult situation, but at the end of the day, they were able to get the kill. That does result in 29 points for the survivor and 32 points for the killer, as, you know, you are able to get a total of, what is that, 8 hooks and 2 kills. So really good showing for the Blight overall. You know, if they were able to get the Nancy or the Jane, that would have gone even further. But with that being said, that is a 3-point lead for Prestige as we move into game number 2.
And actually getting that ace, you know, on Death Hook, that is what brought them over, because they could have easily been at 28 points if it was a 3 out. So getting that ace was actually huge. That puts them ahead. Absolutely.
With that being said, I do believe that Jazzy will be the killer for Cookies. So with that Being said, obviously Blight was brought out first time round. Jazzy is known as a pretty good Blight player themselves. Do you expect that Jazzy's going to bring out a Blight on ARP?
I think it's possible. We could see that same situation we've seen before, where someone's brought out a killer, and you go, okay, you brought out that. We're gonna bring the exact same one, and we're gonna show you how we kill. So we could see that. We could also see them bring in something else.
Yeah, I mean, if they were to bring something else, we saw Blight, and I think you saw a little bit of what I talked about, that geometry and how you can kind of bounce off of things when you're looking to slide and vice versa. What would your thoughts be if not Blight?
If not Blight, me personally, I think Freddy would be really good here. I think Freddy with his teleporting ability, if he ends up having Ruin, able to fake out the teleports, getting the hooks, securing the 3-gen, I think Freddy is a legitimate choice.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you. The biggest thing is that, is Freddy good enough to protect a 3-gen? Yes, he can play around the map a little bit more, but once that 3-gen's broken, there's really nothing else that you can do. You kind of have to just play around the fact that it is broken. So is the right play to play Freddy and pressure the majority of the map at the beginning and then play a 3-gen, which at that point you're playing an M1 115 around that 3-gen. So I don't know. I feel like though Freddy could play a lot more of the map, it could potentially be a situation to where, Freddy could be a mistake as well.
No, I can definitely see your point of view. Do you think they would want to bring out a nurse or a spirit?
If they wanted to retake the lead, obviously there's only a 3-point difference. A nurse or a spirit is an option. It's definitely not outside the realm of conversation. But at the same time, you need to consider the fact that, there's still the rest of the season. And I'm not sure if either team has, utilize the entirety of Nurse or Spirit. I think there's only one team that has, and that is Monarchy, who has used Spirit in full. But let's take a look real quick and see if either team has used a killer entirely. But it looks like only IA has used Oni in full, and that's about it. So they both have Nurse and Spirit available to them. If we're looking at, let's see, Cookies has not used Nurse, has not used Spirit, while Prestige has not used Nurse at all, and also has not used Spirit. So will definitely prove to be interesting to see what they end up choosing, as they do have a lot of options available to them.
Yeah, I can definitely see it as I'm going through and thinking they haven't even touched Spirit and they haven't even touched Nurse. I don't even know what they bring, but I think they got to bring their A game on this next one.
Yeah, no, I would definitely agree with that. And we are getting the builds as we speak, so we'll be starting up momentarily. So, if we're looking at this going into game number 2, I think that you are right that a S or A tier killer is what they're going to want to bring. I'm guessing Bubba or Spirit. How about you?
Ooh, actually, I was about to say it's either Freddy or Spirit for me.
Okay, so
Spirit, I think would be a really good choice if you're going to bring out an S tier killer. This would be the map for Spirit.
No, that would make sense to me. I think that would make the most sense overall. Spirit with Tinkerer could be a really good choice. Play around your 3-gen. As you are in your phase, you do move at 167% speed. Mm-hmm. So you do have that mobility similar to Blight, but you're not able to play the map in the same way that Blight or Freddy could.
Yeah, it involves a very different playstyle. Wow, words will sometimes work today. It involves a different playstyle, but Spirit is one of those killers where, yeah, they can adopt their playstyle and be able to secure that 3-gen.
Yeah, and the question then remains, though, right, is if they do bring Spirit, or if they don't bring Spirit, rather, what else they might bring. But I believe Draft does have some news for us.
Bills are good.
Awesome. In that case, I'll let them know that we are good to go, and we're jumping into game number 2 of Prestige versus Cookies. This time, Cookies as the killer, and Prestige surviving.
Game 2, baby, let's go! I'm excited for these matches. Every time I watch these, it's always so fun. I'm like, oh, what are they gonna bring?
Yeah, no, it is always interesting, and sometimes you do get surprised by some killers that you would not think that would be brought. So it will prove interesting to see, like I said, my money's on Bubba or Spirit. You're saying Spirit or Freddy. We'll have to wait and see, and maybe we'll have a pleasant surprise.
I mean, I am biased when I say Freddy because Freddy is one of my mains, so I'm just looking to see a Freddy game.
Fair. I can definitely respect that. I do enjoy myself from Freddy as well. But with that being said, we are going to jump right on in just a second. So the suspense won't kill us for too much longer, unlike what the killer's looking to do to these survivors.
Sorry, I was drinking water. Oh yeah, I sorry. I was thrown up by drinking water. I apologize.
A little bit of a mental reset, right? A little bit of a mental reset.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. It was like, ooh, water.
No,
crap. What?
I feel that. After a full day of commentating and then also my team participating, I am exhausted. So I can definitely understand one of those moments of, wait, what was I trying to say? What was I listening to? But yeah. After a quick build check, looking good, and we're jumping in, and we see a Demogorgon.
Actually, Demogorgon kind of makes sense. If you put down your portals, you can be able to teleport from one side of the map to another to be able to very easily control the map.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely understand that. At the same time, it is a surprising thing to see, right? Especially in comp, where Demo is probably what I would refer to as a C-tier killer for all intent and purpose. So to see Demogorgon in play is definitely interesting. At the same time, I will say that ability to shred pallets at your leisure is actually quite strong, and is reminiscent of how Blight could, get rid of those middle pallets very early and potentially pressure them in the mid to late game when protecting that 3-gen.
Yeah, it's definitely that one killer where if you want to get rid of resources, all you have to do is threaten that shred, and the survivor has to respect it.
Yeah, no, 110% agree. And looks like the demo's looking around trying to find a gen over on, or a hook on the other side so they can contest the gen, but not able to, and does end up taking them to their corrupted zone. I wonder if maybe they're not looking to protect the corrupted zone just due to the fact that we do see a totem over on this side of the map.
Ooh, they could be protecting the totem. That would make sense. Depending on what that totem is. If it's really viable, then you'll probably want to keep that totem as long as possible.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. Even if it's just Ruin, right? As we do see that regressing gens, if you keep the 3-gen with the totem there, it's going to be very, very strong for Demo, as that does allow him that ability to, keep his gen progression going for longer periods of time.
I do have a question. I noticed that Jazzy is doing a lot of shredding. I wonder if there's a particular reason why they choose to shred in close proximity versus doing an M1, a basic attack.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, the main thing I can think of is that maybe they're running Save the Best for last, but based on what we've seen, the amount of shreds that they have applied, the answer is probably no, and that they are pretty much just using it to make up distance and try and close out the chases a little bit faster. Whether or not that is truly successful, yet to be seen.
Ooh, that was a nasty shred that we just saw by Jazzy.
Yeah, overall, really good plays with the Demogorgon, utilizing their ability very well to make up distance, and does pressure that gen and is able to potentially get another hit here from up on the hill, but does see a survivor on the other side, And I will say, these survivors actually doing a fantastic job of pressuring these gens on both sides. We already seen one gen out on the corrupted side. We see 2 gens on this side currently pretty heavily progressed. And if Jazzy, I think, pursues this chase here, we'll probably see that gen on the hill get finished.
No, I think they will. The Nia is pulling Jazzy very far away. And a missed shred! It didn't matter as 2 seconds later. Oh, but they got the gen done!
Yeah, so honestly, I mean, overall, great plays by the survivors, playing smart, ensuring that the gens are pressured evenly. And I think at this point we see a, 2-3 split. So I think Jazzy's making the right call and going, okay, cool, this 3 gen is compromised. And as soon as he makes that decision, the other 3 gen is also broken. Now meaning that there's a 2-2 split, and that makes this a survivor's game.
Okay, I didn't know that you could shred over that wall. That's terrifying.
You can. Definitely not used as often, but it is an option.
Oh, this is gonna be incredibly difficult. We do see a broken status effect on Bloody Blade.
Yeah, so that probably suggests Deliverance was used in that moment.
Yeah, it wouldn't be second win because I believe 20 seconds has already passed, and they would have already been fully healed. So yeah, I wonder if they are running Decisive Strike or Unbreakable or some other second chance perk.
Yeah, more likely than not, the answer is yes. It's very rare not to see, the usual BT Deliverance, and then you kind of have some choices whether you're going to be running Unbreakable, Decisive Strike, right? But we see that broken status effect disappear, and that means that 60 seconds have been up since the unhook, and that does allow Demo to now put her back up on the hook.
Yeah, that was good awareness to know that the broken status effect is now gone. If they have Decisive, they no longer have it. But very silently, because of the weird bug that's going on, both of the gens were completed.
And I do want to note that Chaz actually let us know the reason why they're going for shreds, because they have shred recovery add-ons, allowing them to recover faster from their shreds.
Oh, okay, got you.
Now, whether or not that has been all too beneficial, yet to be determined. They've gotten a lot of good shreds and a lot of good value from it. But right now, they only have 4 hooks in as we speak. 0 progressions and then another down. But they, once again, since, Nia here had Deliverance, asked the question, okay, does she have Unbreakable or does she have DS? Or all of the above?
Yeah. Unfortunately, this is a waiting game for Jazzy. It just kind of has to wait it out if they are afraid of the Decisive Strike.
Yeah, absolutely. And they do get the mind game on the pallet. Nicely done.
Ooh! If you're Nancy, you're not feeling good about that one. And Jazzy decides to go ahead and leave her slug to go to the exit gate.
Yeah, on one hand, I definitely understand this play. On the other hand, I feel like you need to secure some additional hooks and progressions because you are at a point deficit as is, and you're going to be in one even more so, especially if they get the 4K out, as we do see Nancy get up off the ground.
Yeah, ooh. Yeah, you have to secure your points whenever you can. And this is something that we talk about all the time, because if you already have a deficit and you're not taking your hooks where you can, it can be very difficult for you to come back for the next 2 games, putting a lot of pressure on you and your killer.
Yeah, and as much as I do like the secured kill on the Nancy, the Nia, the problem is that this is only an additional 4 points. Yes, it does remove 12 points from the pockets of Prestige, but you could have theoretically have gotten, 7 points or 10 points on another survivor.
Yeah, it was just really unfortunate that the Nia was the one that was caught, and that they ended up taking at least the 4 points that they can.
Yeah, so definitely an interesting scenario there for Cookies, as we do see Prestige with 38 points at the end of that and 20 points to Cookies. So total points as of this moment is 49 for Cookies to 70 to Prestige, a 21-point match. You know, that deficit is not insurmountable by any stretch of imagination, but definitely will prove difficult to say the least.
You know, I think at this point it's still too close to call it on one side or another. They still have 2 more games, so it's going to be really exciting to see what they choose to do going forward. What killers do they bring, and whether or not it's going to be an S tier or if they feel they can get away with an A or B tier.
Yeah, they'll be moving into game 3. Once again, Cookies will be killing, so they're going to have to, you know, make up that deficit in addition to trying to get a lead going into game 4. You know, as Direwolf and I mentioned, game 3 is probably one of the most important matches in the game. Game 1 sets the tone. Game 3, though, really does decide who wins or who loses based on where we are in it. Because it either gives the people that are behind a little bit of a buffer to get back and get back into the game for a close game 4, or potentially for them to be, you know, the killer, or, yeah, the killer in this instance, to make up additional ground and just secure their victory.
No, yeah, I absolutely agree. Games 1 and 3 are the most important games of these matches. Game 1 sets the tone, saying we're here to play, and we're going to get the kills and the points as much as we can. Game 3 is the deciding factor of, are we still in this match and can we pull it off, or is this game over?
Yeah, no, exactly. But that being said, you know, we are looking to see if Jazzy's going to be killing again. I do believe they are, but we'll get confirmation momentarily. And on game 3, we're going to be moving over to the Blood Lodge, which we've actually seen a lot of Survivor escapes on today. You know, Blood Lodge has definitely seemed to be a Survivor-sided map where we've seen a lot of escapes throughout all of our matches. So I'm wondering, you know, if you're in that position, you know, do you go full in on that S tier? And I think maybe we see a nurse.
I think a nurse is highly likely. Can you repeat the points for me? I'm trying to figure out who is in the lead right now.
Yep, so in the lead right now is Prestige with 70 points versus Cookies at 49 points, so it is a 21-point difference.
Okay, so since Cookies is behind, I think that now you really understand what Prestige is capable of. You bring out the nurse, and you use that nurse to really catch you back into the game.
Yep, and looks like, you know, because I wasn't sure if we were jumping into another lobby, I did not switch back over to Killer, so we are jumping right on in. We'll have to double-check the builds in the pre-game to make sure everything is kosher, but we'll find out momentarily.
I did not get a Killer build.
Yep, so we're going to have to, we'll take a look, and hopefully no resets are necessary, but as a reminder, guys, please, before readying up, do make sure that you send over your builds. In the future, I'll switch over to Killer a little bit quicker, as I was not sure what the plan was.
You know, I think I distracted you when we were talking about what Cookies was going to do, whether it's chocolate chip or peanut butter. I totally get it.
Fair. You know, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. So I'll put the blame on you on this time. But
yeah,
we'll do a quick build check, make sure everything's good to go. I'm sure it will be. These teams do have plenty of experience in Dead by Daylight competitive scenes, so I'm sure they know the rules and know what they can and cannot bring.
Yeah, they're very prompt in their responses, so I don't think it's going to be any issue.
Exactly. But with that being said, we'll be jumping on into Game 3, Cookies as Killer, Prestige as Survivor, and at a glance, everything is looking good to go, so let's jump right on in, and it is a Blight.
Oh, okay.
So, we saw a Blight earlier in this series, but we are back again with Jazzy as a Blight. You know, as I mentioned, Jazzy is known as a Blight main. So it'll prove interesting to see how they play this. I will mention once again, this map is kind of filled with all little bits of debris that Blight can bounce off of if you're not careful. So it will prove interesting if Jazzy's able to navigate that and potentially get downs in rapid succession.
Yeah, most definitely. Especially when this is their main. They're the most comfortable with this killer. So they feel like they can catch back up in the game using what they got.
Yeah, exactly. At the same time, if you kind of look at Blight in the scenario, you know, these survivors are playing pretty well. They're keeping around tight corners, making it very difficult for Jazzy to get their flicks and hits.
Mm-hmm. Those flicks can be very difficult. I'm learning Blights right now. And just like that, a generator has already been completed.
Yeah, I will say though, if we're kind of looking at the map layout, that corrupted zone is actually pretty strong for them. That'll be a good 3-gen to potentially try and keep hold of towards the end of the game.
Yeah, I think they're definitely going to be able to control that 3-gen, all in thanks to good old corrupt intervention.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why it's a comp staple and just how good it is of setting up that early game. But looks like Jazzy's trying to get that Serena back down and attempting to get them out of the game early. And we see them rushing now. Will they be able to get the hit on the window? And they do.
Oh, that was so good. I will say one of the things I am surprised about that there's a lot of people taking protection hits in order to protect a survivor that's already been on a hook or two. That's something I haven't really seen. We didn't really see that in Season 0.
Yeah, I think people are starting to smarten up a little bit more about taking protection hits and extending those chases. I think it is a very smart play for all intent and purpose, as that does allow you to potentially get additional, 15, 20, 30 seconds onto a chase because they're able to get to a vault, get to a pallet, right? So I think that is a big part of why we're seeing that more and more as teams practice those maneuvers.
Oh, and I actually never saw that Nia, so wow, okay. Well, Jazzy just got a hit on the Nia, and who were they looking for? I think they were looking for the Zarina, who's already been 2-hooked, right?
Exactly. That's exactly what Jazzy's attempting here, to try and get this down and get this Zarina out of the game on for potentially 3 gens by the time that this hook takes place. But we have seen Jazzy pop that gen over on hill multiple times now, though we do see it go off.
We do see it go off, but while that is gone, they're already down 1 player. It's now a 3v1 with 3 gens, and we already see someone going down. Is it Venison Rain, I believe?
Yep, that is correct. And so this is going to be tricky for these survivors to try and come back from. When it comes to the comp play or just pubs in general, reducing resources early in the game is really going to benefit you as a killer. And if we're looking at the situation at hand right now, this could result in a 3-man slug if this team is not careful.
Yeah, it could be Jazzy is fully aware of the situation and goes, I really need to get a 3-person slug. And as I say that, we have a 3-person slug.
Yeah, and the only saving grace for the Survivor team at this point could be an Unbreakable play. But it's also very possible that the Survivor that died early on, that's Zarina, could have had that in hand.
What about Deliverance? I don't think we saw Deliverance. Oh!
We have not seen Deliverance, but we did see that Unbreakable, and then the Deliverance on top of which. So that does change up the game just a wee bit, as we are seeing Dazzy go back up on hook here.
Yeah, it's like, as soon as we saw the 3-person slug, I thought, that's it. I don't think anyone has Unbreakable. Cheryl pops up with the Unbreakable. We get a Deliverance play, and ooh, nice hit.
Yeah, overall, Jazzy's been maneuvering around this map rather efficiently, ensuring that they aren't really hindered by that debris that can be found on the ground. And so these survivors are definitely in an uncomfortable position. Though there's no ruin to passively aggress these gens, I don't think there's any progress that it's on these gens outside of that one over by Shaq.
Yeah, I don't think so. What they're deciding to do is to leave 1-person slug and try and go for the 2-person slug in order in order to get some points back, but unable to find anybody during their 3-gen.
Yeah, I think in this instance, the best thing that they could do is to theoretically try and get one more gen, but I don't think that's going to be possible at this point in time.
Yeah, I don't think so either. You know, especially because there was a lit totem that was up earlier, and it appears that it is gone. I'm not sure if there's any other hexes involved, and maybe someone has soul guard, but
Nope, no,
it doesn't appear to be the case.
No additional hexes at this point in time as we look around, no lit totems. So that really does put them into the situation to where no Soul Guard in play, Unbreakable and Deliverance were used. At this point, it really just comes down to Jazzy finding the survivor on the ground and getting the hook.
Yeah, they really need to find tricks, otherwise they're not going to be able to capitalize on any points they were hoping to catch up with. The bleedouts, if I recall, are worth 0 points.
That is correct, but Jazzy will not have to worry about that as they are able to find tricks with 2 minutes to spare, so that there will result in the 4K.
A 4K on 3 gens. This is exactly what they needed.
Yeah, no, I mean, at the end of the day, if we're looking at points as we speak, we see Prestige with 5 points and Cookies with 43. So this really does turn the game around for Cookies. And we see now Cookies at 92 points to Prestige's 75. So they now have, what, a 17-point lead going into game number 4.
Yeah, that 17-point lead is going to be huge. That's going to be... I'm trying to think of what they need to do in order to get the win, because Prestige did not get. They only got what, 5 points? It was 5 points from having 2 gens completed.
That's correct. So yeah, if we look at the breakdown, if we go to the scorecard right and do a true breakdown, as you know, Nancy is kind of waiting out this last stage here. You know, in all reality, in order to claim a win, they're going to probably need upwards of a 3K, more likely than not, because let's say that Cookies gets all 5 generators and 1 escape. That's still a win for Cookies. They need to ensure that they get a 4K at this point in time.
Oh, this is what competitive DVD is all about, right? It's anyone's game going into the final match of this round.
Yeah, I mean, the only option for a 3K with a 1-man out is theoretically a 3K, but one hook on that last survivor would result in a tie. A second hook would result in a win. But if there's any progressions between that, it's going to be a loss.
So it would... Man, that's tough. A 10-hook game is possible. Highly unlikely.
I mean, it depends on what killer they bring, right? If they feel like they can get the win by bringing a nurse, by bringing a spirit, by, you know, bringing an S or A tier killer, it's not outside the realm possibility, but it's definitely going to prove difficult. So you didn't have to weigh the pros and cons of, do I bring, you know, the S tier killer with the risk that we still might lose?
Yeah. Yeah, that's something that the team definitely needs to talk about. They need to talk about, do we bring the S tier, or do we not? Because they're going into the last match. It's either now or never.
Yeah, pretty much. So it's going to come down to what the Prestige wants to do. You know, the odds are stacked against them. It's going to be very difficult for them to claim the win. But I definitely think that it is possible if played well. The question is, you know, do you feel confident in your abilities? And that's always the hard part about being that last killer, right? You just have to, all the pressure's on you. It's all or nothing here.
Yeah, the team is definitely saying, hey, so you know, this is how we're behind by a little bit, but it's still manageable. So go out there and get the 4K.
Yeah, so it'll prove interesting. I'm very excited to see what Prestige brings and what their mentality is in that moment. But with that being said, we are starting up the lobby for game number 4. Prestige versus Cookies.
I love this. I love this.
So, what would be your thoughts here? You know, if this was your team, you're conversing with them and you're going, okay, here's what you need to do as a killer. You're not killing, you're surviving, but you're talking to your killer. Here's what you need to do. What is your opinion? Do you bring in the S tier and try and go for the W, or do you play it safe and bring in maybe a B tier and hope for the win, but understand that you might not get it?
No, if the team trusted me enough for me to give them advice, which is always a mistake, I would say bring out the S tier. If we want the dub, this is a time to use it.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. So, you know, we'll have to wait and see what their mentality is, of course, with this season, with every killer being able to be used twice, and, you know, Prestige not using a Spirit or Nurse yet. I definitely think it's not outside the realm possibility for us to see that. And we already saw Blight, so they can't use that again.
Yes, because it's so different from Season 0, because Season 0, you could only use each killer once.
Yeah.
But this time we're going, you could use each killer twice, which means we're going to see a lot of higher tier killers because the competition is cooking up.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of talking about that, you know, Season 0, we had everyone use once, and then this season, with as many teams as there are, we opted for twice. I'm thinking and playing around with the idea that S-tier killers should only be able to be used once going forward, making it a little bit more selective of when you use those killers. So we'll have to wait and see what it looks like for Season 2, especially as, you know, I'll be getting some feedback from the likes of DBE and working with their team and seeing about balance changes over here. Obviously, I want to balance the league based on where the league is at. And I know NOED is always a topic of conversation, but I don't know. Based on what we're seeing from killers, I don't know if NOED is needed right this moment. Maybe in the future. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, maybe in the future, but I think right now, having NOED not be a part of this, I think it's perfectly okay.
Yeah, so we'll have to wait and see, especially as we get more and more teams here. I know that one thing that Direwolf and I were talking about is potentially having some of their Arctic Wolf teams join COTF. For those who are not aware what that is, basically DBE has a academy team to basically teach you how to play comp and bring in newer players. So, you know, as I positioned COTF before as a gateway to comp, you know, being a bit more free form than or structured as, you know, DBE and DBDL. We might see some teams like that, and maybe as we see those really strong Survivor teams come in, where those M1 killers are not able to compete, that's where NOED will probably come into play.
No, I absolutely agree. It would be really nice if some other teams were able to come in and join this, and I would not have been able to get into the comp community if it wasn't for COTF.
Yeah, I'm really happy to hear that. I know that my start was back in the days of, you know, Vigo's Court, which is returning, I do hear. But really happy to be here of COTF, and, you know, appreciate all of your guys' support, and especially yours joining the production team, because was it this week or last week your first day on production?
My first week of production was this week.
Okay, that's what I thought. I was like, I'm pretty sure these were your first set of games, and you were a trooper today. You were actually scheduled for all of the games today initially. Then Gannicus came in and took the spot with Sergeant Fidget. Then Direwolf, which was very much a last minute thing. As Direwolf said, we literally had met like 2 hours before the match that he helped co-host on, and it was just by happenstance. And we're like, cool, let's do this.
Yeah, I was ready to go those, you know, full four games. You know, I'm sitting here with my popcorn right now, and yeah, I was ready. I was ready for a good and long day, but I was very happy that there were a couple of other people that came in, including Direwolf. I was so happy about that.
Yeah, no, it's a great opportunity. Loved commentating with him. And like I said, definitely looking forward to having him back on again in the future. But I do believe we are good to go. Giraffe, is that correct?
That is correct.
Awesome. I'll let them know that we are good to go. And this will be game number 4. This is for all the marbles. And like we said, Prestige is going to need to get a either 4K or a 3K with the last survivor being on 2 hooks. So it is pretty much just saying, just get the 4K.
Yeah, just go for the 4K. What's the worst that can happen?
It's one of those things, like, whenever you're breaking it down, like, what's the minimum amount of work I need to do? It's like, well, I mean, exactly what you need to do normally, which is just try and get the 4K. That's what you should be aiming for the most part. But most killers, I would say, especially M1 killers, you want to mainly aim for a 2K 6-hook. I think that's your ideal scenario, 9 times out of 10. But if we do see an S-tier killer come out here, I think aiming for the 4K is what you want to expect, especially if it's a nurse, especially if it's a spirit. You want to know that your usage of those killers was worth it in the long run.
Exactly. And I think that if you are bringing out your S tier, I think that's a sign of respect, saying we respect the other team's play. We understand that they're a very good team. We have to put ourselves in the running.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But that being said, we do see a nurse.
Yep. I think we were both right. I think we were both thinking about a nurse coming in, so I'm actually quite happy about this.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Obviously, in COTF, double range nurse is not allowed, so you are double charge instead. Actually, since I think this is actually our first nurse match of the day, I actually haven't been able to bring it up. What are your thoughts on 3-blink nurse being back?
I'm frightened. I'm frightened. If I'm going to be honest, I'm very frightened. I'm actually going to go back into the PTB because I really want to test it. But 3-blink nurse seems very dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, when I read that, I'm like, excuse me, what? Like, yeah, it's an iridescent add-on, but, any nurse main, Super Alpha, for example, I'm sure has 1,000 torn bookmarks. So being able to give basically, almost Omega Blink Nurse back again was kind of surprising. But that being said, we're seeing Dazzy here just barely miss the charge on their second blink. I think they thought they had it and blinked just a little bit early, trying to go for this down, but now trying to wait it out and trying to get Jazzy down here, but now experiencing a blink bug, which for those who have not experienced that before, it is a miserable, miserable thing, which most of the time results in you missing your blinks and not be able to get the down, but they were able to recover.
Can you actually explain what the blink bug is?
So basically, when it happens, the blink bug makes it so that you, for all intents and purposes, quote-unquote, overcharge your blink, and it basically results on your second blink, you not able to blink, and on your first blink, you kind of can hold it out. You hear that rapid sound of blinking, 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 and that's kind of what causes it, and just kind of locks up your blink, for all intents and purposes. And it's pretty horrible when it happens to you as a nurse, and that bug has been around for God knows how long at this point in time.
Ooh, that was a very nice blink over to the Sheriff. That was very nice.
Yeah, Dazzy here, definitely feeling a bit of pressure because of that blink bug consistently, and trying to get a cheeky hit through that vault, seeing if maybe Good Day was a little bit too close to the vault. For those who are not aware, if you're too close to those windows or a low fence, you do risk getting hit by the killer, and, Dazzy here attempting to see if that could work in their favor.
Yeah, we do see them. They got temporarily slugged, and I think they wanted to pressure another gen on that side. They saw the Nancy run away, and they felt, okay, it's time to go back and take my hit.
I mean, as we see Ruin up, I think that's a smart play. Pressure them off the gen, let Ruin do its thing, and then go back up for the pickup. In some ideal scenarios, you might be able to get a hit as well. And I think we see Dazzy here identifying a potential 3-gen for them to work with and opting to stay on this side rather than kind of exploring out to those other gens. Because it doesn't matter how many gens get completed by the survivors, what really matters is that they're able to get the 4K, and they found a bit of a rock. Blood Lodge did get re-enabled. Apparently, so too did rocks that you can jump onto, and Dazzy having a lot of fun with that. Getting up on there.
They were saying, I have the high ground now.
Sounds about right, but high ground don't mean much when your survivors get off the hook. So, Dazi now
true.
back and going for the Cheryl, it looks like, to try and reduce resources, completely ignoring that Jane, and now having to risk the potential DS. Let's see if it pays off for them.
No, it did not occur.
Yeah, so no DS, another gen done. We did see a Aura read on another survivor on that main gen, probably from Undying. So with that being said, I think them trying to reduce resources, get a survivor out early is the play, and I think we potentially even saw 2 survivors on that gen. As we saw 2 Aura reads, one person off the back, but then another person moving into that main building as well.
Yeah, it would be huge if there were 2 people there. And oh no, Undying is revealing that someone went back to the gen, so it had to have been that 2 people were on it.
Yeah, a little bit of information, especially as a killer main, you kind of need to keep track of constantly. And, in that moment, especially as that gen was near completion, you really need to be having a keen eye. Otherwise, you do risk that being lost and potentially losing that 3 gen and receiving a, 2-1 split, which normally spells disaster for the killer.
So something that was interesting, so the Cheryl got unhooked.
Yep.
The Cheryl got unhooked and they got immediately healed. I wonder if the nurse thought at all about going to pursue the unhook in order to secure the kill.
They probably did, but if you look at where they are hooked, it's kind of in this uncomfortable position, right? Where it does potentially mean that they get over to Shack in the area of the map that has a lot more resources still available to them.
And I believe with that gen being done at the main house, I think that that breaks up the 3 gen.
Yeah, it does, and that puts the nurse into a very uncomfortable position. Even if they're able to get this down, they now have to contest with a 2-1 split, and Ace doing a beautiful job of holding that dead hard for as long as possible to avoid that, and does get some extra distance here. Nurse is going on for a long chase.
Yeah, they are. I think at this point they're committing. They committed to the Ace.
Yeah, I think at this point, if we're kind of looking at all the hooks, we have a hook on every single survivor and then 2 hooks on the Cheryl. I mean, the best case scenario is that you get another hook on one of them and you give them 1 survivor escape. Otherwise, you're right now in a situation where it's not looking like you're going to be able to get that 3K, let alone a 4K.
Yeah, no, I agree. So right now, it seems like they are patrolling the gens, and they did come across a Nancy.
And Nancy doing a great job breaking that line of sight and trying to ensure they don't get hit, but Dazi taking their time and getting the value they needed. But we'll have to wait and see, and they do get a good down. Funny thing is, I'm pretty sure Nurse can't blink up on the excavator. So I think that if they would have just sat there as they heard the blink, they would have been perfectly fine. So they may have panicked just a wee bit.
Yeah, it could have been a panic. I mean, you do have to pay attention to that kind of stuff, especially if we're not sure if the nurse can actually blink up there.
Yeah, I'm almost 100% certain that you can't. There's just certain spots because the hitbox of the nurse basically needs to take place in whatever you're blinking to. You have to kind of either do a really short blink, which the timing's going to be really, really tight, or you're going to not be able to blink up there at all. I know, like on Bad Ham Preschool, there's a specific room in House of Pain that you simply can't blink into because the hitbox doesn't allow it.
Oh, that would be quite a hindrance for anyone who's playing Nurse. And now we did see they went over to the other side of the map in order to check on that gen, and they found a Cheryl and pursued them and got them down.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of needed. They spent a lot of time around those gens. I think they saw Jane, and they saw that on that gen they were on that had 0 progression. So I think they opted to go for the other gen just in case, and it did pay off. The question is, now if one person dead, can they capitalize? And unfortunately, that last gen is completed, so they'll need potentially a 3-man slug in order to get the win for the 4K, or at least a 2-man slug and allow the 1K. Their best bet to secure the win is to allow the Nancy to escape while they get the Jane and the Ace.
Yeah, because Nancy is the one worth the least amount of points, I believe.
That is correct.
Yeah, so it's in the best interest to leave Nancy alone, go pressure the Ace or go pressure the Jane, in which they did leave, and they did find someone else.
And it looks like I'm also being informed that the nurse can link up on that excavator, so good to know for future times where I'm on that map. But we hear that exit gate open, even though they are on the Jane, and I foresee 2 survivors escaping at the very least, even if Jane goes down.
Yeah, I think the smart thing is, going up against an S-tier nurse, take the 2 out. Yep. We
There's
see
one
already out.
And so at that point in time, that's Nancy, but that's Ace. And even though Jazzy gets that hook and progression, that will end in 121 points for Cookies and 110 for Prestige. A very close game, and they were very close to getting that win. All they need to do is get that Ace, and that would have actually been it.
Yeah, that was incredibly close. All 4 games, we saw some really good gameplay, and it took all 4 games for there to be a victor.
Exactly. Which I always love those really, really close matches. But with that being said, congratulations to Cookies and GG well played to Prestige. And that there will be the end of this match. But Draft, do you have a question for us?
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly confirm who actually won the match for the prediction.
The match for that, let me double check real quick, as I did close that down. If we're looking for that match, that was 29 points for Cookies, 35 points for Prestige. So, Prestige won the match, or won the game, but did not win the match.
Alright, thank you.
No worries, no worries. Well, with that being said, that there will be the end of today's stream. Travesty, thank you very much for joining me today. It was a ton of fun. I look forward to having you back on again soon. If the survivors want to, if the viewers wanted to go say hi next time you're live, where would they find you?
They can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/TravistyOnDemand, where all of the moves I make in my games are quite the travesty.
I like it, I like it. But with that being said, I am Gilt, aka Giltspire, I'm Mark, aka Giltspire. If you can't tell, it's been a long day for me. I am quite exhausted, and I don't think I've eaten yet. With that being said, though, I am Mark, aka Giltspire. I'm an educational Dead by Daylight player here to teach ghosts how to play Killer and survivors how to play against Killer. So make sure to stop on by and say hi. But we'll be live again tomorrow for Division 1 of COTF. And let's take a look. Our first match of the day is going to be at 8 p.m. CST for Fortitude Twin Locker versus Travesty, followed by Milkshake Mafia versus We Can't Loop at 10 p.m. So definitely make sure to stop on by and say hi then. But on that note, we'll see y'all tomorrow. Bye-bye!